Okay, today we're going to talk about Chapter 2 and interdisciplinary instruction. Let's just review a little bit first. The social studies, of course, is the study of cultural, economical, political, and geographical aspects of past, current, and future societies. We've talked about the national standards for social studies. There you can find notable trade books for your projects that you'll be doing this semester, one with the interdisciplinary literature unit and for the 10 social studies choice books. So that is a wealth of information. Here you'll find just a little quiz. This is a fun site that you can review. This is called a Quizlet, and you can actually play games and review for tests. You can create these for your own students. This is just for the 6 social sciences, just so I could show you. You can use them as flashcards and flip and those type of things. And then you can do this game scatter. Go ahead and do that before you come to class so you can get an idea of how that tool can be used. Okay, back to the presentation here. Of course, we've talked about the emphasis needs to be on social history, geography, and civics. So let's go on now to Chapter 2. And let's just talk about some of the people that are influences in interdisciplinary instruction. You all know about John Dewey. He is the progressive education, very hands-on. It's learning for today, not just for the future. We're not only learning things so we can be better adults. Kids are learning things so they can be better right now, and they can make good decisions and make it meaningful and applicable to their lives. And that was right around the turn of the century, 1900. And then Hilda Tava, she came about. She's all about spiral learning. Concepts build on each other, just like our glees are organized. You start learning something in kindergarten, and then you build on it, and you keep coming back to that and re-emphasizing those skills, but at a deeper level. She also advocated for character education in the 1950s and 60s. She pointed out there was a very strong tie between social studies concepts and character education. That's true if you think about the history of our country and the values and principles that it was founded on. Another guru in this area is James Banks. He was one of the first ones who talked about kids and students as citizens and decision makers. He advocated for multicultural education. And then let's get to this interdisciplinary instruction. It's really all about teaching more than one content at the same time. And you can think about thematic units, differentiated instruction, parallel curriculum, setting learning objectives for lots of different subject areas at the same time. It all goes together with interdisciplinary instruction. But if we think about this, the underlying philosophy for all of these people, all these different ways of learning is constructivism. It's very, very hands-on, learning by doing, active learning, engaged learners. So think about that as you read through the rest of these resources and learn about teaching social studies. Think about that active learning. So there are a couple different things that all social studies lessons should include. You should promote higher order thinking skills. It should not be about names and dates only. Those are important, but it should be more about thinking, interpreting, analyzing. Think of those higher level on the Bloom's taxonomy. Also, we should talk about social studies as both personal and social. We've already looked at the 10 social studies themes, and several of those had to do with an individual and how they grow as a person, but also how we interact with other people in social situations. There's a personal need to communicate with others and a need to also be with other people and learn how to be with them. And so we'll talk about that social aspect of lessons as we go throughout the semester. Also, the authors of our textbook say that students should address problems that cannot be resolved through just fact memorization and all of that. So it needs to be things that they can really struggle with. So I want you to stop for just a second, and you can pause the video and think about what are some of those problems out there in society or as a student might have that you could throw out as a question that students can really research about. How can they think about problems that need to be solved? Okay, brainstorming some of those problems or situations. In K through 3, you might talk about ecological problems like recycling and in the environment. Also, how goods and services are decided and produced. What about helping other people like homeless people or people who need clothing or shelter, things like that. Kids can do lots of things and think about things of that nature. Also, 4th through 6th graders can talk about racism. They can talk about gun control. They can research about it and how it was historically and how it affects them now, even today in our society with current events. There's just lots of things. And we really want to advocate for kids thinking about things. And it's a harder way of teaching, but it's more meaningful and they get more involved in the whole process. So traditional versus interdisciplinary instruction. It's kind of like the old narrative, behaviorist versus constructivist. Who learns best? Traditional behaviorist, you talk at kids, you tell them things they need to know, and then they spit it back out to you on a test. My daughter Carly had a social studies teacher who was like this, and it was very hard for her to connect with the learning at all. And so just be cognizant of that. Think about learning as doing. In this lesson that I have linked here, you can see, go and examine that, because you can see that this whole unit is about America the Beautiful, the song, and really looking at the lyrics, thinking about how what the words mean, integrating vocabulary development, also U.S. geography. This is what interdisciplinary instruction is all about. Really digging deep into things and bringing all the different content areas together. These essential elements of literacy learning. As we talk about interdisciplinary instruction, you will hear a lot of these literacy elements being integrated into the units because they are so not only easy to integrate, but they're valuable in helping kids make sense of information. I won't go into these now because in Chapter 6 we will talk about strategies for learning, and a lot of those are reading strategies. And so just know that listening and speaking and reading, writing, viewing, and visually representing, you need to think about these as you think about activities. It will also be important as you think about activities that you will integrate into your interdisciplinary literature unit, that assignment that you have coming up. There will be a lot of activities that involve all of these things. Now, we have 3 primary goals when you talk about interdisciplinary instruction. Number 1, produce lifelong learners. You want kids who are going to love learning. They're going to be motivated to learn. But also we need to encourage decision making, because not only as a child, but as they grow up and they take on more responsibility, they need to know how to make decisions. And also the third one, and this is the one that the authors advocate for the most throughout this book, is to create citizen actors. In other words, kids need to know that there are issues out there. They need to be involved and know how to make good decisions and to help others also make good decisions, taking on responsibility and making a difference in our society. So here are some things that you can do to help meet these goals of this kind of instruction. Is respect the learner, the teacher, the content. Make sure that you are teaching not only how to make good decisions, but also content, because you don't want to throw those names and facts out the door. You just want to, frame those things within a context that kids can really understand. Talk about and stress both the process and the product. It's not always the end result that is the most important. Lots of times the learning, most of the time I would say, the learning, the process is as important as the product. You have to use lots of different methods when evaluating and assessing students. A lot of authentic assessment. There'll be projects. There will be, situations they're in that they will think about and reflect on. So think about lots of different ways to assess students. And then also teach the way they learn. We talked about constructivism and incorporating lots of choice and hands-on activities. In the video that is posted on today's session, you will notice that these kids are so engaged because they are totally involved in the learning. I want you to think about those. And then you need to encourage group decision making. That means a lot of your classroom time might be messy because collaboration and cooperative learning activities are allowed, and they can look like they're out of control from the outside. But you need to think about how you can organize that and give kids those opportunities. Also allow students to be citizen actors by voting. There's so many things in your classroom that you can let kids vote on. If they're going to have, what they're going to have for snack, if they're going to do reading first or writing first, give them a choice of several different activities, all kinds of different issues, and you can even get other classrooms involved. And you can think about some of those other things that they might be able to vote on. So just to recap here, interdisciplinary instruction is totally not simple observation and practice. It is engagement. Kids are involved. Technology integration can have a lot to do with that. We will talk about those further throughout the semester. I'm not going to go into those right now, but there are so many opportunities that you can take advantage of. In Chapter 9, you will be researching websites and apps and virtual tours that your kids can go on. So we'll leave those for that. But just know that technology makes kids very engaged through the learning process. And then last but not least, the steps to building a social studies curriculum. You'll need to have a lot of these things at your fingertips so you can build your curriculum. Identify concepts. Look at those, please. Look at the Common Core standards. We talked about those already this semester, and you really have a good grasp of those now, and you'll be able to incorporate those into your lessons. Also think about the different groupings and the skills and the types of activities you're going to be integrating. You need to have a lot of inquiry, a lot of choice, a lot of projects, and then think about those evaluation tools. All of those different things that you will have learned about already and we can talk about in class. And also make sure that kids have the opportunity to work together. It makes it hard sometimes, but it's very important. Also, you can have your whole classroom collaborate with another classroom in another part of the country or even in a different country through some other types of projects such as ePals, or there's Google Treks. There's lots of different things that you can do there as well. And that wraps up this lecture on Chapter 2.